Welcome to In Your Element, the podcast that unlocks practical wisdom in higher education, where leadership meets real talk. I'm Brendan Henkel, Manager of Solutions Engineering here at Element 451.
And I'm Daniela Norden, Element 451's Director of Customer Success and Engagement. Join us every other Thursday for discussions with everyday heroes using Element 451 in enrollment, marketing, and student success. We'll unlock the practical tips to help you make waves on your campus.
In Your Element is a part of the Enrollify Network, a robust collection of podcasts designed to help higher education professionals like you grow. Explore our other shows at enrollify.org or check out some of my personal favorites linked in the show notes below.
Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.
Welcome back, everyone. We are back at In Your Element, and boy, do I have a treat for you today. We have Luis Caloca. He is the Dean of Student Access at CWI, and he's also the most recent winner of our 2024 Student Centric Institution Award. The things that CWI has been able to pull off in the short time that they've had Element has been nothing short of astounding, and they really have kind of the best leader at the forefront of that with Luis. So I'm so excited to have you on, Luis. How you doing, man?
Thank you. That was very flattering, Brendan.
I mean it. Listen, I will get on and I will look on social and I will see, like, it's almost like a daily occurrence now. Probably not daily, it just feels daily of another milestone that you all have hit at CWI since you started using Element. And I just love it. I love the cheerleader that you've been. I love the fact that you're taking like the bull by the horns and creating buy-in and all that stuff. We'll get into all that, but how are you doing today?
Yeah, I've been doing great. This is the first week of classes. So typically around this time is when we are at our busiest. Last Friday, a week ago, was our busiest day of the year. And then Monday was the second busiest day of the year, and starts to taper off ever so slightly after that. But it's definitely been a wild ride the last.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Well, let's dig right in. Let's start talking about the first thing that I really wanted to kind of get your opinion on was creating buy-in. And that is such an important piece of whenever you bring in new technology, no matter what it is. I always hold the mindset of a lot of times technology is not really broken, but how it's rolled out, how it's implemented, the buy-in that you can create, that's really what hampers institutions from being so successful. So one of the things that I've loved seeing is how, number one, how much you've been vocal about it. But I mean, you've posted like, hey, here we are starting our training. And this was like the day after you got back from Engage. You guys were like hosting a training, right? Like, tell me about what you're doing to create buy-in and the intentionality around enablement that you've been kind of issuing at the school. So go for that.
You know, I think a lot of that really does have to do just with some of the resources that we have access to. I think that we've always been very vested in terms of creating videos in order to train our team, holding events in person if need be. And we actually do have some time set aside, typically on a Friday morning before we open, for trainings, team building, whatever activities it is that we desire. And that occurs on a weekly basis, right? So we always have that set time. It's not as easy to get to during peak periods. During peak periods, it's more catch-up time. There's no time for training. The last couple of weeks, there was no training. We actually did have one today, this morning, that I already posted about as things are starting to slowly taper off. But I think it's a matter of, without that time set aside, that would not have even been a possibility. We're a pretty big department. So trying to get everyone in one place during one time can be difficult if you don't have something set aside in advance. So I think that was our starting point right there. We had the time and we learned a lot, and we wanted to bring that to the table with our folks. And even beforehand, we had already started kind of orienting the team to the product before we went live. So we had some, I wouldn't call them trainings because it wasn't anything that was formal, but we just went in and said, hey, we're going to talk about the conversations module today. Let's have a look at what it can do for us and how it will improve our work, right? So I think just that, low pressure, a little bit of exposure here and there, And then the closer we got to going live, then we had our formal trainings, right? With these are the expectations, right? This is what we've discovered as a best practice and how we want you to use the product. And then really customizing how we use the tool as we actually start to use it and seeing how it might behave maybe a little differently than expected, or maybe it's the student
Right.
behavior that's different. So then we adjust it on the fly, and we were able to create training videos to get that information out within, as you said, typically from one day to the next. I mean, we have I said, I think just a lot of resources here that we really leverage as best we can so that we can, put something in Premiere Pro together in a matter of minutes and get it out to the team. And sometimes we wait until that Friday, but sometimes Friday doesn't come soon enough, so we get it out sooner.
That's right. That's right. That's awesome. And I love it because it's like, it's planned. You have planned trainings, but then you have the intentionality of, hey, you know what? This isn't how we expected it for one reason, whether the platform or student behavior or whatever. Let's make an adjustment. But not only once you make the adjustment, let's make sure everyone knows about the adjustment. Because I think that, again, you can get a little tunnel vision, especially when you're an Element captain or a CRM admin, where you can go in and you can look at a situation and I need to make this adjustment in this change. But then that trickle down of that change may not go. And then that's where you get the people that aren't on the same page. You lose buy-in and things like that. I mean, I just love it. I love seeing all the pictures of you in the training room. I love being able to see all the things that you're sharing there. So that's really awesome. Let me ask you something. Your title with Student Access, right? So Dean of Student Access. I really like that title. So a lot of things that we're doing, and I think you could probably agree with this, a lot of things that we're doing, especially with things like Bolt Discovery and things like our AI assistants, we're really trying to create this accessibility for students to get information, to have conversations, and to be able to get what they need when they need it, right? And so tell me a little bit about your specific role and kind of how you view that, and explain kind of what you're doing and what you're charged with.
Sure. Well, a lot of it definitely has to do with getting students into the institution, Brendan. So really all of those front end processes, they belong to this department. So we have 3 different teams, and they all have a slightly different flavor of how they approach their work. So we do have our processing team. We have recruiters that go out into the high schools, and then we also have our folks that are here in the one stop and tend to work with more of our non-traditional student population. And then a hodgepodge of other folks. Typically that first student contact resides with someone on this team, right? And that's really, I think, where we tend to shine. So we do a really good job of getting students interested in the institution. And I think this product has helped make that transition from interest to putting something on paper, right? Like, let's get your information. Let's figure out where you're really at and what comes next, moving forward with those next steps. And I think that with this CRM, that's really how I think where my role has transitioned. Whereas typically it's been more of being out in the community, which is still important. But with the CRM, I think that we've kind of taken a step back and really taken a really in-depth look at how we do our work and how we're working with our students. And it was really difficult before when you had 5 different tools that you use to gather student information and trying to compile all of that information and figure out who's supposed to be working with the student. Nearly impossible. I mean, no one has that sort of time. So I think that within the last few months that we started to leverage Element 451, I've noticed that I not only have time, I think, to continue some of that work of being out in the community and working on large scale projects. For instance, I'm starting the discovery for us to become an institution that offers Pell Grants to prisoners. So
Wow, that's
those folks are getting ready to come out. After they've done their time, they've served their sentence. We want to make sure that we can work with those students and get them Pell so that they can come to school and hopefully get some skills. Right, we know that'll reduce their recidivism rate.
Wow.
I've not had as much time for those large scale projects because we've been so bogged down with doing things manually and just trying to figure out what work even is there.
Yeah. Let's get into a little of the nitty gritty there. So we just, high level Elements helped with that. It's kind of transformed your role, but let's go specifically here. What are some things that you've been doing that has helped you be able to focus on those bigger projects now because it's not taking as much time for all the manual stuff that you were doing? What are some things that you're doing in Element in that have helped with that?
Oh gosh, I took notes, Brendan. Because
dude, read off, take notes, whatever you want. Give the people all the tea, all the details. They want to know the nitty gritty. So lay it on us. What have you been doing?
There's definitely a lot, and I'll tell you that we are blessed as well to just have this amazing marketing team that we have worked with hand in hand to work on our RFI forms, the admissions application, and really all of those things that have made expressing interest in the institution and applying to the institution simple, something that can be done in a matter of just a few minutes. And I'll tell you that some of the work that we did early on, especially after we deployed the admissions application, was thanks to some software that marketing had set up that gave us visibility to that student experience. So Ted, that CRM analyst, and I, we just sat down and watched. And I literally mean watched students filling out that application step by step, follow it along, noticed where they were clicking more than once, right? And I think that the tool even produces what's called rage clicks. So those folks we paid particular attention to, pulled up those records, and we just started making adjustments to the application on the fly. We started adding skip logic that we just hadn't thought about after we saw that students were struggling, and maybe it had something to do with residency. Maybe it just had something to do with how they were noting their institutional information. I would say that probably that first week, we did nothing but that. Watch the admissions application and make adjustments based on student behavior. And after we saw all of those extra clicks start tapering off, we transitioned to the next thing. We're like, the admissions application's in a good place. Let's focus on something else that'll continue to make that student process an easy one.
Wow. Well, I was just going to say, I mean, for listener, this is the reason why he's able to do that. Luis, tell the people, do you know how to hard code an application out and to make changes and hard code any applications?
I will tell you that 3 iterations ago, that's how our application was built. And that's why we never made any changes. We were scared to even add or remove a question. That's how bad it was.
Yeah.
So it's nothing like that.
I mean, I just love it. I just have listening to that, and now that's your reality. Is you can focus on the student experience, and because the burden is now not okay. Well, now the student's experiencing that. Now we have to go through the hurdle of getting changes done on the application. You can look at the problem, go make a quick change, go make that quick adjustment, and now it's live for those students. And now you can go, like, there's power in that, right? Like, I mean, there's power in that, and there's kind of a relief on your end, probably in your role of what you're able to provide students. So that's really cool. So what else? Keep it going.
Yeah. Well, I would also say that when it came to tasks, the tasks, I think, have just made it so easy as well to follow up on those students that are initially expressing interest. That was the first task that we set up. Is, hey, when a student fills out an RFI, we want to make sure that we can get to that student within a matter of, preferably a couple days, at the most 5. And that's how we built it. We assigned all of those tasks equally amongst everyone that's on the team, so that everyone hopefully has an equal load. And if not, the beautiful thing is I can easily see those figures and work with my assistant directors to be like, hey, we need a load balance. This isn't right. Jaslyn has more folks than Jared over here. Let's figure this out. Whereas before, it was much more difficult to do that. Again, right? The 5 different softwares. How do you compile all of that information? It was difficult. Right. Now that we have everything in one, much easier. And even being able to see where they're at. Are they falling behind, right? Because of perhaps that load balancing isn't there. Being able to reassign folks. We have an individual that's leaving for a couple weeks on vacation, which is well-deserved, right? How do we fill in?
Yeah.
You can easily fill in, reassign. You can reassign in mass after you create a segment and put together a workflow, which we've done. Using BoltBot to figure out, just at the press of a button, what are my tasks? Who should I focus on first? And it will let you know what's high priority versus low priority. I mean, just that in itself, because sometimes if there's a lot of work to do, it's really difficult to figure out what you should focus on first. We let the tool figure out that for us. So it's beautiful. It's amazing. That's probably why I post so much. I'm just like the biggest fan, and it's made, I think, work just fun. I love figuring out how to right? Like how to better use the tool, how to help the team get back to our students and focus on the work that we love, which really is working with our students and talking to them and orienting them on what comes next.
Man, I love that you said that. Did I demo the platform for you whenever you guys signed on? Before you signed on? Was I the person that did your demo? Do you remember?
I don't think so, Brendan.
No, not me.
No, I think we met you down the road.
Down the road? Okay,
Yeah.
that's possible too. So one of the things that I say all the time is we want people to not just have a platform that's easy to use. We want to have a platform that's enjoyable to use. That's the goal. You don't want to, I want people to go in and kind of have fun playing with it, right? Like it's got generative AI, it's got all this new tech in it. Like I'm kind of a nerd, so I like playing with that kind of stuff. I want people to get excited about those things. And so it's one of those things. I just love that you said that. And that's just a very cool kind of takeaway was, you're enjoying it. I love that. So so cool. All right, anything else? What other kind of things have you implemented that you weren't doing, or kind of how you changed that made an impact? I know one thing that I saw that you posted was you had an event that you ran. Now you ran this same event before Element. You had 88 people that attended. You ran the event again this year with Element, and you had 250 people attend. So I need the deets. I need to know what was done different and kind of where you were able to strategically kind of approach it based on the kind of change of atmosphere.
I think this is a really good place to offer a plug for the Element Summit.
Oh, Engage Summit? Nice. Go for it.
Yes.
Hey, please do.
That's actually where the work began. I don't recall. It was on day 3, the hands-on session, which if anyone ever asks me, I will say if you go to the Engage Summit, day 3 is a must. That's going to be the most productive for you. So we learned that after the first one. So obviously the second time around, we had to go again. And it must have been something where we were talking about events and using Copilot. That's where we started building what we were thinking of doing for this particular event. So we worked with Copilot, and Copilot built a communications campaign for us, right? To get students interested, get them hyped, and build the event so that they could actually RSVP. We used those customization features so that the messaging was slightly different for those students that had already RSVP'd, but we still wanted to keep them engaged.
Yeah.
And sure enough, a world of difference. You saw the number that I threw out there, 250.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge jump.
We were not prepared for that jump, which is a good problem to have.
Yeah.
But I think what most surprised me, Brendan, is that, we cut off the RSVPs knowing, right, that we're only prepared to handle so many students. And as always, right, folks show up that are unexpected. They never RSVP. That's great, right? We definitely welcome them as well. But the percentage of students that showed up without RSVPing was just unbelievable. It was nearly half of the students that showed didn't RSVP. They must have just seen the messaging and be like, oh, hey, that looks exciting. I'm going to show up. Like, RSVP, that's not a thing, right? And gosh, 250. We were just swamped. I didn't get out of here until 9:30 p.m. that day, and the event ended at 7:30. Is wanted to make sure that every student was served. But just the sheer excitement. We had, I think, one student that walked away that just couldn't wait. 1 out of 250, and everyone else was just all smiles and just excited about being there and working with us, and we were excited about working with them. It was unbelievable. Wow. And even the staff, they're like, gosh, we hope the next one is just like this one. So yeah, all around, it was exciting and amazing, and I can't wait for the next one.
That's so cool. And I think you hit on a couple of points there that are really powerful. And it's just the nuance that you gave in changing the verbiage for students that did RSVP versus did not RSVP yet. And I think that that's such a nuanced difference that you can add, but the impact is a little understated, because to make a difference like that in traditional or other platforms, you're having to do multiple different campaigns, right? As opposed to having one campaign personalized to multiple different kind of demographics or personas, if you will. And so that is so huge. And you kind of see the payoff from that. So I love that. And you said you cut off, so you could have possibly exceeded 250.
Oh yeah, easily.
Nice. I love that. I love it so much. Awesome. Well, one of the other things that I wanted to dig into and talk through was because you mentioned your application and the changes that you made to it. You mentioned that you hit a milestone of 1,000 applications in under a month, right?
hmm
Explain that to the folks of everything from, did you expect something like that to hit that milestone that quickly? Did that look different from what you had experienced previously with the other application systems you were using? So kind of if you can talk through that piece and kind of, how what that milestone meant.
I don't think that we were expecting that at all, Brendan. Our admissions application, the prior iteration before Element, I mean, it was a good one. It was a really good application. We worked with our marketing team to build it out, and definitely had a lot of flexibility using the Drupal product to make it happen. But it was custom built, right? And it's semi easy is the term I'm going to use for how we could customize that. I mean, definitely much easier than that hard coded application, but still just not anything that you could do on the fly and expect to have it go into our SIS. Because prior to Element 451, that's all that we used. We didn't have a CRM. So now with the CRM, just the fact that it goes into the system right away, that's significant for us. I would say where it's made the most difference is probably in the yield rates from applicant to admitted for our non-traditional student population. Because now when they go into the application, you're actually logging into that portal. You have visibility to what is required of you to meet admission requirements. And not just necessarily visibility, because I think that most folks are pretty well aware that you need an official transcript. But now being able to identify on there, let's say you went to 5 different colleges. We have a lot of students that have been at many different institutions. You can log in now and on the fly recognize which institutions have produced that transcript and have been processed by us. Whereas before, I was able to use our SIS to send some confirmation emails to let them know that we had received a document, but it was a question as to what we had actually received. Right. And now, just because of the flexibility with the tool, students they actually know what's occurring instead of just having more like ambiguous messaging, I suppose is the best way to describe what had occurred before. But all of that was based on the limitations of the software and the tools that we used. So definitely much more visibility and us being able to just, in a sense, more easily communicate with the students as well when they do have those questions through the conversations module. That engagement occurs much more rapidly. And I think that students are seeing that it is easy, responsive. So the number of exchanges that we've had with students, I've seen increase as well. And at the end of the day, I think that that's also what has increased our yield rates from applicant to admitted student. The visibility, and then us being able to communicate with those students more easily when they have questions.
Awesome. Do you have any specific increases in yield rates that you can speak to?
I've not seen those final numbers yet, primarily because we go well into October.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we go well into October, and that's when we produce our final numbers.
What you're saying is I should keep my eyes peeled to LinkedIn for whenever those yield numbers are released, because you'll be broadcasting that sucker out. All right, cool. All right, so
Brendan, I will say anecdotally though, I'm telling you right now, 20%.
Okay. Oh, wow. That's awesome.
Right?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So that's good. So we'll wait for the official number, but for now, 20% is what we'll hinge on. That's beautiful. I love that. So, I don't think it's any secret to anyone that knows anything about Element 451 or is using Element 451 that we are AI forward, right? We are very AI forward as far as engaging with students using AI. You've mentioned the productivity piece of it with tasks, especially. That's really useful, or even to be able to build a campaign just with a natural language prompt. But you've mentioned some of these that you're doing already, but I want to know, kind of coming into using Element, what was y'all's thought process and approach with AI? And specifically, what are some things you want to speak to with AI that you're doing now, tasks that you're doing, or jobs or roles that you've rolled it out with that you're seeing impact in?
Well, we had no clue that it was AI forward when we first started looking into the product, Brendan. It was something that caught us by surprise, but I'll tell you that we're kind of technology nerds. So we've always, even in our personal lives, just gone into discovery processes with any number of our hobbies. So with AI, I mean, it's something that, yeah, we've done a lot of the, even initially with ChatGPT, just the drafting of messaging or, those simple things to start off, and then started going off into like video editing tools, video creation, and some of those other image creation, some of those other things that the AI can do for you. So when we discovered that Element 451 was AI forward, I mean, there was no hesitation on our part.
That's awesome.
We jumped in, and if anything, I would say that the rest of the institution perhaps isn't quite ready for how deep we want to jump into that pool right away. Yeah, Ted and I are springing off the diving board, and other folks are just in the wading pool. But that's okay, right? Like it's something that we're accustomed to. But at least the tools that we do have access to, like the Copilot, that's something that we actively leverage and have actually given trainings for the rest of the team so that they can actively use Copilot anytime that they draft a message. And I really like how you can include branding guidelines, writing styles, and all of that into the background so that it's a very uniform type of message style that we're starting to produce now when we communicate with our students anytime that we use the Copilot. So I think that in itself is significant, right? If you talk to our marketing team is all about, right? Like there's a certain way that you write a message, anything that goes out to the student, right? It needs to have a certain tone.
Got to have the brand voice, the institutional voice has to ring through. No one wants a cookie cutter AI email to be written. It has to ring through. Yeah.
That's right.
Hear it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. And it learns, right? That's something that we've noticed as well. As we've used the product more, there's certain questions that maybe it didn't answer. And that sends us on a search into our knowledge base to see what did we plug in there that would help the Copilot address this particular question. And we fill in the gap, ask it the same question again. And there is the response that we were looking for. And it can easily just learn and adjust even minor things. Like, it's funny. I talk to it like a child that doesn't listen. And it is very responsive, unlike my kids when they were growing up. So
Hannah Wilson from Forsyth Tech, she had that panel at Engage, and she said something that stuck with me, and I actually used it. I've stolen it from her, and it's, you can be bossy to your AI. Like tell it what it's not doing right. Tell it exactly what you want it to do. Like you can be bossy, and that's how you get what you want out of it. So I think it's a good tip. Just tell it, be exact with what you're saying to it, right? Speak to it. A good way to say it is speak to it like it's a person. And I know that may sound weird or come off weird to some folks, but if you have someone that reports to you, intern or employee, and they're going to draft a communication flow for you or a campaign, and they give you something and it doesn't look good and you know exactly why, you're not going to just look at them and say, this is no good, and then send them on their way. At least that wouldn't be the right way to do it. You would say, hey, this is what I don't like about it. It doesn't sound this way. It doesn't look this way. Actually, I think we were more trying to capture this about it. Talk to your AI that way. And then it's able to take that. And this is where the difference is, right? You give that to a person, you're going to wait a few days for them to come back and issue you reiterations of that copy in that campaign. You give that feedback to AI, it's going to give it to you in about 5 or 10 seconds, right? And that's the difference maker.
Yes. Well, and, especially at a time like right now, when we are in our peak period and we see the most student traffic, those seconds and minutes add up. And I'll tell you that being able to easily plug in with the rest of my team, because during peak periods, it is all hands on deck. It has made the world of difference for us. So right now we're sitting at about, I think, almost 10% up in credits. So,
wow.
Right, anytime that you grow that much, that fast, you obviously expect to see more inbound student traffic by phone, by email. And I'll tell you that last Friday, on our busiest day of the year, as I was pitching in, helping address student questions, like typically we would be maybe about a week behind on our emails. And I'll tell you, as I was working in that conversations module, it blew my mind that I was answering a question that had been submitted to CWI 2 hours before. Like that's how caught up we were. Because of the fact that we were able to better load balance, more folks can pitch in, you could easily transfer to do tasks to others. And I would have never expected that on the busiest day of the year. And
Wow.
the experience that we were able to provide for our students, especially not just those that were already in the funnel working on those last steps, but even being able to continuously engage with students that were expressing interest for the first time that we had always struggled to do during these periods. We were caught up on our tasks too. Like, it's just an unbelievable student experience that we can now provide because of the tools that we've been given.
Yeah. Wow. That was your aha moment. That was your
I realized
it was the realization. You're like, whoa, this time last year, this was not my experience. And you could kind of point to it as well. That's very powerful. That's very cool. Well, you've kind of talked about what you're a visionary, Luis. Like, that is, I think of you and I think visionary whenever I see how you've kind of really leaned into the platform and its capabilities. So you've talked about what you are doing. What's on the horizon for CWI and using Element 451 and how you're using it? Because I know you got some things you're working on. I know you too much. I know you're going to work on some things. So what are they?
Gosh. Well, I'll tell you that the institution has already identified that we do want to leverage events. That's the next module that we're going to put in a lot of work on and make sure that we can use that for all of our institutional events and anything that's internal. Gosh, if it were up to me, though, I'll tell you that BoltBot and the assistants, BoltBot's now assistants, we already did some preliminary work on that. And I think that the rest of the folks were waiting for us to start the test server before we really leaned into that heavily. But now that we just debuted our test server yesterday,
okay,
that's where we're headed next. We want to really build out those student assistants to take on what we know will be a majority of the load. As even working in the conversations module as much as I have these last few weeks during peak, those simple questions, Brendan, there's no reason that we should be focusing on those, right? That's what the tool is for. That's what we need to build it to address. And that's where my focus is, like really making sure that my team can focus on the student experience for those students that require something more in depth. And that's not something that we've been able to do in the past. So that's where I'm looking.
That's beautiful. And, you've taken piece of encouragement here. You've taken steps in that direction, right? To your point that you were just making, you've seen growth. You were able to not be weeks behind in responding to some of these messages. It was 2 hours ago on your busiest day of the year. And I was going to say, I was like, man, how cool is it going to be when now you look at what happened this year and then you look at what happened next year and AI assistants are there. And guess what? You don't even have to respond to any messages on the busiest day of the year because your AI assistants have already done it, and not even in 2 hours, in right away. Right. And that's where you can kind of start to get excited about the growth you can have. Man, this has been so good. I have enjoyed our time so much. Now, there's always a question we ask on In Your Element, and we have to ask. I'm going to ask it to you, so hopefully you're ready. But Luis, when are you in your element?
Well, gosh, when am I in my element? I think it's any time that we make a new, not necessarily a new discovery in the tool, but when we make an adjustment that we know is going to be impactful for our students. That's what gets me excited. Everything that we've done, I think up until now, has been one of those moments. It could be something ever so minor, making an adjustment to the profile card so that my processing team can easily send an update form to students that need to make a slight adjustment to their application that will only pop up when that situation is appropriate. That was another moment. I mean, I could list out, I'm sure, many of those for you.
That's awesome. That's so cool. Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited we were able to talk and connect, and congratulations again, CWI, having us being a student-centric institution and the student-centric institution for 2024 for us. I mean, it's no surprise. I mean, I think that has been super obvious in y'all's approach and what you do, even down to the fact that as soon as you launch your application, you're just looking at what the student experience is, and that's what's driving your changes. And I just love that. So thanks so much. I've enjoyed having you on. I can't wait to see all the new social posts coming up, to see all the new things that you're accomplishing and the milestones you guys get to. But we've enjoyed having you, and super excited to see what comes next for CWI. Thanks, Luis.
In Your Element is part of the Enrollify podcast network. If you like this podcast, chances are you'll like other Enrollify shows too.
Our podcast network is growing by the month, and we've got a plethora of marketing, enrollment, and higher ed technology shows that are jam-packed with stories, ideas, and frameworks, all designed to empower you to be a better higher ed professional.
Our shows help higher ed marketers and enrollment professionals find their next big idea and feature a selection of the industry's best as your host. Learn from Mallory Wilsey, Artis Kadu, Maya Demishkovich, and so many other of your favorite leaders in higher ed.
Enrollify is made possible by Element 451, the leading AI-powered, all-in-one student engagement platform, helping institutions create meaningful, personalized, and engaging interactions with students. Learn more at element451.com.